Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Silver Spring. My name is Bonnie Gallion, and my pronouns are she, her, and I'm this morning's worship associate. From many cultures and sexualities, genders and beliefs, we come together into one congregation. If you're visiting with us today, we are so glad you're here. If you'd like to learn about our free faith, or how to join this congregation, Dorothy Hale is today's welcoming captain and will be happy to connect with you. In her book, See No Stranger, a memoir and manifesto of revolutionary love, lawyer and activist Valerie Kaur provides tools for healing the world while keeping love at our center. Her Sikh faith is at the heart of her book and overall message. So Rev. Caitlin will share the story of how the Sikh faith was born. Later, Rev. Kristen will preach about the topic of the book's first chapter, the practice of wonder. And throughout today's service, we will enjoy the musical gifts of guest musician Tom Teasley. Won't you join me in giving Tom a warm welcome? Tom brings decades of experience learning and collaborating with musicians from around the world. Today, we will also begin our fall religious education classes for children and youth. About halfway through the service, kids 5 and over can continue in the spirit of worship in age-appropriate classrooms. We also have a nursery for kids 6 months to 5 years old who'd prefer to spend time there this morning. But children and babies of all ages who would are always welcome here in the sanctuary with their grown-ups for the whole service. Now it's time to greet one another. Those on Zoom, please greet one another in the chat, while those here in body greet our neighbors around the sanctuary. When the music starts, please head back to your seat and rise for our opening hymn. The words to all hymns will be shown on the screen.
And to rejoice and come in, and to rejoice and come in. All day, and to rejoice and come in. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song. Today will be a joyful day, and to rejoice and come in. Open your hearts to each one. Open your hearts to each one. Today will be a joyful day, and to rejoice to each one. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day, and to be afraid of some change, and to rejoice and come in, and to rejoice and come in. Today will be a joyful day, and to rejoice and come in. Won't you be seated? It's a wonder and mystery, Tania Marquez writes, that our paths have crossed, that in the immensity of time, in the vastness of space, we coincide here. I am in awe at the ways in which our lives interact and intertwine, at the beauty we create when we gather. May our coming together make us more compassionate, more just, more caring and loving. May our hearts and minds be open to this offering. I am so glad that you are here. Good morning, everyone. My name is Reverend Kristen Schmidt. I'm the senior minister of this congregation. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. Please join me in saying the words on the screen as we light our flaming chalice, symbol of our free faith. May this light warm our hearts with love and caring and guide us in the ways of truth.
So I am the Reverend Caitlin Cotter-Coilberg. I'm your minister of spiritual growth. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I'm going to tell you a story. All right, so this is an old story, and it begins over 500 years ago in Punjab, which is a part of ancient India known as the Land of Five Rivers. So the 1400s, so this was actually over 600 years ago. This is in the 1400s. It was a turbulent time in the Land of Five Rivers. Muslim folk had come into the area generations ago, and in the centuries since had been coming more and more into power. Muslim buildings, arts, and traditions had taken the place of Hindu buildings, arts, and traditions, and there had been a lot of violence and bad feelings. Muslim, of course, is the word we use to describe people who practice the religion of Islam. So our story begins when a boy named Nanak was born into a Hindu family in 1469. By all accounts, he was a very smart and compassionate child. His parents wanted the best for him, so when he reached school age, they made arrangements for his education. There was no public school down the street, right? You had to make arrangements for education, which sounds like even more paperwork than our parents have to do now, right? So the thing that was unusual about this kiddo's parents, the kiddo of this devout Hindu family, was that they decided to send Nuk to a Muslim school. Everyone's saying, oh, right. It was truly a shocking decision. So as he grew up, Nanak learned that there were bad feelings between Muslims and Hindus, but he also made friends with the Muslim boys in his class. And I wonder if it was those friendships that planted the seed of unity and compassion in his heart. So years later, Nanak got married and moved to Satanpur Lodi, a city where people went for higher learning. It was, I guess, like the Cambridge of India, the Berkeley, the place where you go to really talk about things in a weird way, you know? So Nanak was a good Hindu and always made sure to go to the river to make ablutions. Now, in other words, he would go to the river each morning and splash himself with the holy waters as he prayed. And as the story goes, one morning, Nanak was doing his prayers, his splashing at the river, but then he disappeared. Everyone gasp again. Excellent gasping, everyone. And he didn't return until 3 years later. 3 days. I'm sorry, I got that wrong. Whew. Yeah. 3 days is still pretty bad, but it's a little different. Everyone's still panicking. Nobody's remarried yet. So His wife and friends all thought he had died, but again, no remarriage yet. So when he came back, everyone was shocked. All right, more gasping. Ready? Y'all just keep getting better at that. He's alive! Ooh. They all wondered what had happened while he was gone, but soon realized that whatever had happened to him, wherever he had gone, the experience had changed and enlightened him. His first words when he returned were these: "There is no Hindu, there is no Muslim, but only human beings." In other words, the religious categories that separate us, that make us believe we are different from one another, maybe even better than others, are not as important as the humanity we share. So Nanak never claimed to be a prophet. He didn't decide one day that he was going to begin a new religion. He was just dedicated to working for peace and compassion in his community and helping people overcome hatred for one another. But a new religion did form around him and out of his teachings about the unity of all humanity. This religion came to be called Sikhism, a word that means seekers of truth. Like our free faith, Sikhism teaches the unity and equality of all people, and that truth is too big to be limited to one religion. People who practice this religion are known as Sikhs, and they gave Nanak, the founder of Sikhism, the title of Guru, which means teacher. Today's service is all about the oneness of humanity that Guru Nanak taught. So the adults will be learning about Valerie Kaur. Now, kids, do you remember learning about Valerie Kaur next year? Last year we talked about her in our Holy Troublemakers lesson. Yeah, you remember. She was a Sikh, she is, still alive, no one's remarried, lawyer and activist who uses revolutionary love to change the world. So I'll end today's wisdom story with her words, her way of understanding the heart of Sikhism's message. We can all become enlightened. We can all use love to change the world when we can behold another person and know that they are a part of us we do not yet know.
I hope we will also practice grace for one another, and especially for the sounds and wiggles of the youngest among us. That said, I invite those of us with children here to encourage them to join us in this practice. What we do here at UUCSS is important, but Sunday mornings are just once a week, while parents are the resident theologians for their children. Also, if you've suffered a deep loss in the last year, please feel free to stand or raise your hand during the silence in honor of your grief. Now, as we hold the silence together, may it hold us, one and all.
Sing with me, and then we will turn it into a round. Building bridges between our divisions, we reach out to you. Will you reach out to me with all of our voices and all of our visions? Friends, we could make such sweet harmony, building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you. Will you reach out to me with all of our voices and all of our visions? Friends, we could make such sweet harmony, building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you. Will you reach out to me with all of our voices and all of our visions? Friends, we could make such sweet harmony with all of our voices and all of our visions. Friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Friends, we could make such sweet harmony.
Ground of all being, out of the deepest of mysteries and with the biggest of bangs, all that is, the very existence of existence, came into being. And each time we behold the magnitude and fragility of the earth, Our hearts echo over and over again, wow, thank you. Whenever we behold the power of love, feel the squeeze of another's hands, the care in another's eyes, the sound of our names on another's lips, when we feel the tug of conscience to say we're sorry, to right a wrong, or somehow find a way past the old hooks of anger and pain and into joy and grace, when we feel welcomed truly in the fullness of who we are, our hearts echo over and over again, wow, thank you. Along with our gratitude for a world of ordinary miracles, we hold fears and sadnesses, worries and regrets. We hold in loving kindness all who do not have enough, everyone without access to education and medical care, those without homes, those whose homes have become war zones, people in all places living in danger, people being held against their will, the victims of genocide around the world, and those afraid of the seeds of genocide being planted right here in the United States, and everyone on the front lines of peace and equity. When the evils of the world weigh down our hearts, when we struggle to stay soft in a harsh world, let us remember that love is stronger than hate, that a new season is always waiting on the other side of whichever one we are in, that eventually all tyrants fall, and that there is a power at work in and with and among us, beckoning us toward all that makes life good and just, beautiful and abundant. In the name of love, love at our center, love beyond belief. Amen. Blessed be.
So in just a moment, everyone who wishes to take part in our programming for children and teens will have the opportunity to transition from this sanctuary to a few different places. So I'm going to invite forward kids, youth, and teachers to the chalice. We've got a new ritual for y'all to take part in. So kids, teachers, youth, if you are willing, come forward now, please. So the learning and growing our children and teenagers do together is not separate from the worship we share, but an expansion of it into different spaces on our campus. This is why we have started calling our classes worship breakout groups. And in this spirit, we're going to start this year, we're going to experiment with a new thing where we invite a participant in each of these worship breakout groups. Today there's 3. To carry the flame of our chalice, to literally carry the flame of our chalice from worship to their classrooms. So we have these lanterns here. And of course, children and youth always also welcome in this space. So this week we have 3 worship breakout groups. Our classes actually start at age 3 now. Everyone say, woo! So the preschool group is going to be downstairs sharing in the nursery space, so we're always sure we have our ratios there. The elementary age group and any middle schoolers who would like to join them today will be headed to the fellowship house today. And the youth group, the high school youth group, will be headed upstairs to the Dolan Lounge in our admin building. All right, so as we sing This Little Light of Mine, we're going to light these 3 and then we'll sing the second verse, and that'll be our recessional. So we think we understand what we're doing? We're going to sing 1 verse of This Little Light of Mine while we light the lights, and then 1 verse we're gonna actually recess instead of sneaking out the back. All right, we ready? Okay.
I'm sharing an excerpt from the introduction of See No Stranger, a memoir and manifesto of revolutionary love by Valerie Kaur. If you cringe when people say that love is the answer, I do too. I'm not talking about sentimentality or civility or thoughts and prayers. I'm talking about love as labor, a conscious, embodied practice. Social reformers and spiritual leaders through history led entire nonviolent movements anchored in the ethic of love. Time and again, people gave their bodies and breath for one another, not only in the face of fire hoses and firing squads, but also in the quieter venues of their daily lives. Black feminists like bell hooks have long envisioned a world where the love ethic is a foundation for all arenas of our society. It's time to reclaim love as a force of justice. Here's my offering. Love is a form of sweet labor, fierce, bloody, imperfect, and life-giving, a choice we make over and over again. Love is a labor that can be taught, modeled, and practiced. This labor engages all our emotions. Joy is the gift of love. Grief is the price of love. Anger protects that which is loved. And when we think we have reached our limit, wonder is the act that returns us to love. Revolutionary love is the choice to labor for others, for our opponents, and for ourselves in order to transform the world around us. It begins with wonder. You are a part of me I do not yet know. It is a formal code of prescription, it's not a formal code of prescription, but an orientation to life that is personal and political, sustained by joy. Loving only ourselves is escapism. Loving only our opponents is self-loathing. Loving only others is ineffective. All three practices together make love revolutionary. And revolutionary love can only be practiced in community.
Along with 67 million other Americans, I tuned into Tuesday night's presidential debate. Did any of you? Yeah? And in what might have been a questionable parenting decision, I allowed my kids to stay up and watch it with me. While we may not share every single detail when they ask us political questions, they hear things in the car with us when we have NPR on the radio, and they come home with questions because of things that their friends said at school. So we tell them the truth as best we can in age-appropriate ways. And they knew that the debate was coming, and they wanted to see it. So I baked cookies, we made homemade popcorn, and they loved watching the Vice President Harris's side eye during the split screen. They noticed how calm and collected she managed to stay in the midst of it all. And I'm glad that they got to have that experience with me and that I could answer their questions as they came up. And it was a pretty fun evening in a lot of ways. But watching the debate with my children also made me so sad. It made me sad that I had to explain why so many things the former president said were not just unhinged and funny in how weird they were, but why they were harmful and actually very dangerous. And it made me not just sad, but angry that while my children know our family does not think this is normal, it has nevertheless become the norm for political discourse in this country. I know what brings a lot of people to church is the hunger for community. And some come because they want support, raising their children with a spiritual and ethical center, especially in today's world. But I believe there are desperately needed things in our world today that congregations are uniquely equipped to offer. First, congregations offer opportunities to make the world a better place. And second, we help people develop the inner skills and qualities to stay soft when the work gets harsh. This need to heal our broken world without breaking ourselves is what led me to begin reading Valerie Kaur's book in the first place. I decided to preach on a different chapter each month this church year because of how clearly she addresses the kinds of questions I've received from so many of you over the last 4 years. How do I hold on to hope when it feels like the bullies are winning? How do I nurture joy when I have to spend so much time in resistance mode? How do I keep love at my center when the world makes me so angry? I know there are many here today who are deeply involved in Get Out the Vote efforts. Woo! My spouse signed up to serve this year as an election judge. I plan to offer rides to people who need help getting to the polls. Make no mistake, the coming election is crucial. But it is also true that no matter who is elected on November 5th, this country will still be broken, and love will still need our hands and feet when we wake up on November 6th. Valerie Kaur's book offers ways to engage in the ongoing work for justice and equity that don't deplete us, but rather help us to learn and grow, be changed, and be filled along the way. I think what I love most about Valerie Kaur's work is that she invites us not to change the world by trying to dominate others with our beliefs, our opinions, the rightness of our carefully constructed convictions. She invites us to move beyond the knee-jerk temptation to categorize people as right or wrong, woke or not woke, good or evil. And she frames her approach in religious terms, pointing to her Sikh faith's ideal of the Sant Sifai, the warrior sage. The warrior fights, the sage loves. It is a path of revolutionary love. And the first practice of revolutionary love she identifies is wonder. That feeling many of us have when we're out in the forest or by the ocean, on a city rooftop at night, or gazing out the window of an airplane at the miniature structures and topography of the land. It can also be the feeling we have when we hold a newborn baby, or listening as an elder tells us about how the world was in a bygone era. And many of us experience wonder when we meet people who are really different from us, yet with whom we still share a kinship, a sense of unity, a common interest or hope or vision. Kaur shares quite a bit about what it was like for her to grow up in agricultural California. Racism was ever present and often very painful and isolating. She became keenly aware that most people in her overwhelmingly white community saw her as other, did not relate to her as if they could imagine being in her shoes. And yet it is this capacity that is so foundational to many religions, especially her Sikh faith. The very heart of Guru Nanak's teachings is the unity underlying all humans. Or as Kaur put it, "You are a part of me I do not yet know." This is important because when we can wonder about the lives and experiences of others, it opens the door to being able to love them. But when we stop wondering about others, when we relate to them not as human beings, but as other, as obstacles even, that opens the door to violence. Nations and empires have been built on the practice of othering people. This is what Kaur has to say about that. Sometimes I imagine, what if first contact in the Americas had been marked not by violence, but by wonder? If the first Europeans who arrived here had looked into the faces of the indigenous people they met and thought not savage, but sister, brother, sibling, it would have been difficult, perhaps impossible, to mount operations of enslavement, theft, rape, and domination. Such operations depend on the lie that some people are subhuman. If they saw them as equals instead, might they have sat down and negotiated a shared future? Imagine institutions on this soil, built on the premise of equality rather than white supremacy. Imagine the forms of community that might have emerged and how that would have evolved through generations. What would my childhood have been like then? She asks. I reach the limits of my imagination. The dream evaporates. What does it take to reclaim wonder now, after so much trauma and devastation? Racism and sexism, transphobia, and the history of colonization and empire profoundly shape the way we have all come to see and experience our world. And for Kaur, this is precisely why the practice of wonder is so powerful. She writes, in brain imaging studies, when people are shown a picture of a person of a different race long enough for comprehension, it is possible for them to dampen their unconscious fear response. We can change how we see. We shouldn't confuse this with suppressing our biased thoughts. Saying to yourself, don't be racist, doesn't work. It actually increases the frequency and power of the original biased thought. Instead, you have to choose to think of the face in front of you as belonging to a person. Therefore, when we encounter each other throughout the day, it is not our primal reflex that we are responsible for. It is the succession of conscious thought. So Kaur began a simple practice to train her brain, to take responsibility for the succession of her conscious thoughts. As she lived her life each day, she came across the faces of people she'd see in the grocery store and on television and on the metro, and she would say in her mind, sister, brother, sibling, grandparent, aunt, uncle. And she would take a moment and she would begin to wonder about each of them as a full human being. Who were they going home to? What was their favorite food? When I do this, she writes, I am retraining my brain to see more and more kinds of people as part of us than part of them. I practice this with animals and parts of the earth too, she writes. I say in my mind, you are a part of me I do not yet know. This is such a simple but compelling practice, especially in a world where schools face bomb threats and parents had to decide to keep their kids home for the day, and people face threats of violence because a presidential candidate repeated a lie in a debate about immigrants eating animals. Pets. Especially in a world with moneyed interests who are very invested in an us versus them mindset. In this context, practicing wonder, developing our capacity to sense the humanity in every other person we meet, it's not about the Hallmark card version of love. It is a practice of revolutionary love. But as Kaur writes, this practice, it also comes with responsibility. Because, as she says, if you choose to see no stranger, then you must love people, even when they don't love you. I know, I don't want to hear that. You must wonder about them, even when they refuse to wonder about you. You must even protect them when they are in harm's way. Hopefully, this has brought up some juicy questions for you. This Wednesday, September 18th at 7 p.m. on Zoom, I will lead a discussion about this first chapter of Valerie Kaur's book. I hope to see many of you there. Because while we can practice wonder and love in revolutionary ways as individuals, this work is really meant for community. This is what Kaur writes. To be a person of color in America is to live on the precipice. Any moment, your world can erupt in violence. But this isn't a problem just for people of color or Americans. We all live under the cloud of potential violence as long as we live in a society that enforces hierarchies of human value, where violence is often perpetuated by institutions of power. Individual acts of love are not enough. We need to be part of movements that help us wonder, grieve, and fight together. There are many reasons why this congregation exists, but for this time and this place, I think this is one of the most important. And it's why UUCSS joined Action in Montgomery, so we could meet people of other faiths and no faith and many backgrounds to build power and change policy so this county and our whole state of Maryland become places where everyone can flourish. I would like to close with a very short meditation exercise that Deb Weiner actually led at yesterday's retreat of your Board of Trustees. I've adapted it ever so slightly, but it was a powerful practice for board members, and I hope it's powerful for you as well. So I invite you now to close your eyes, to rest comfortably in your seat, and take a deep breath and let it out slowly. And then just breathe normally, feeling your body relax more with each exhale. I invite you to bring to mind our whole congregation, this whole faith community. Everyone sitting here in the sanctuary, everyone joining us from many places on Zoom right now, and later those who will watch the YouTube video. Think of all the people here, not just your friends, not just the ones you know well. Think about those new to the community, hungering for community. Think of the people here who disagree with you about things you care about. Think of the people who sometimes annoy you. Bring to mind those people here you may even avoid. Visualize those persons or people and repeat the following phrases silently to yourself, directing the phrases to the people in your mind's eye. You are my sibling, my brother, my sister. You are my beloved. You are my neighbor. You are part of me I do not yet know. May you be heard and understood. May you feel valued and respected. May you know you are held always in love beyond belief. Now I invite you to take another deep breath, arriving back to this service, arriving back to one another here and now. Thank you.
It is said we plant trees that bear fruit we will never eat. And we eat fruit from trees planted long before we were born. All of us are givers and all of us are receivers. And it's in the interplay that life as we know it flourishes. This connection between the flourishing of our lives and our practice of generosity is why we include an offering in every Sunday service. In a consumer-driven society, it is a refreshing reminder that the most meaningful gifts in life can neither be purchased nor earned, but simply given and received. However you choose to make your gift, I hope you will join me in giving generously. Now please join me in dedicating all of our gifts to the mission of this congregation: to create joyful spiritual community where we connect deeply, serve, and mobilize for our collective liberation.
And now Jamie Jorgensen will give our announcements.
Hello, my name is Jamie Jorgensen. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm a member of the Board of Trustees. This morning, we've gathered and sang, we've prayed and reflected, and now I'm going to share some opportunities to connect in community beyond Sunday morning worship. The printed program's a handy way to get plugged into our many activities and programs. And we have 3 announcements we'd like to draw special attention to today. Our first announcement is for newcomers to UUCSS. If you've recently begun joining us on Sunday mornings and want to learn more about this congregation and our free faith, we hope you'll join Mary Beth. After today's service, she'll be hosting what we call UU 101 over in the administrative building in a room called the Dolan Lounge. That's right over there. So the Dolan Lounge, just have people point you in that direction. They'll know where to help you get to. This gathering is a chance for you to ask questions and learn about the many different ways to connect here in community. Second, if you were intrigued by today's service and want to be part of a discussion about the first chapter of Valerie Kaur's book, See No Stranger, you can join Reverend Kristen on Zoom this Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. The Zoom link for the discussion can be found in the all-church email, on the church website, and on today's printed program. Our final announcement is about the congregation's annual Catoctin glamping trip. This year it starts on September 27th. Catoctin is a highlight of the church year for many folks, and it's just 2 weeks away. This intergenerational weekend in the woods is open to all UUCSS members and friends. We schedule a few activities, including a campfire and Sunday service, but there's also a bunch of free time, and this year the log cabins can accommodate CPAP machines. Have questions? Email catoctin@uucss.groups.io. See you on the mountain. And now, a skit from our auction team, Linda, Emily, and Emily.
What are you doing, Linda? Is Emily in your hat?
No other Emily today. I am conjuring up some autumn magic.
How do you do that?
Well, it's in my magic hat, of course.
So you've got colorful leaves. Let's see the leaves. Whoa! A warm sweater. And a hot cup of cider. Don't spill it. Oh my, I see a pumpkin to carve. And is that a turkey to stuff? What else do you have?
I have a brand new autumn magic auction event.
Ooh, ah. Well, tell us more about it.
Okay, well, we're going to have, here, you hold this up. Okay, we have online donations of events, things, and services that you can enter starting October 1 to October 30. So start thinking about fun things you can do with our UUCSS members, or maybe go into the attic, the basement, or the garage and start finding some of those treasures that you'd like to donate.
And we're going to have an online auction that runs from November 10th to November 16th.
just like last year. And then finally, we'll have our Autumn Magic Party. That'll be Saturday, November 16, from 4 to 6 p.m., same time as last year. And we'll have...
So we'll have a silent auction, and we'll have snacks and games and crafts for the whole family.
Yes, we will. It'll be a lot of fun. And for the kids and for us and adults. And here's the surprise. We're going to have a pie baking contest. Yes. And what happens with all those pies? There's a pie eating contest. As well as many other surprises. So make sure you save the date, Saturday, November 16, for our Autumn Magic Party. Thanks.
Let's give them a round of applause. We are grateful for all of the ministries and programs and activities that enrich the life of this congregation. Let's rise and embody your spirit now and join in singing our closing hymn, When I Am Frightened, number 1012 in the Teal Songbook, or the words will be on the screen.
Will you still embrace me when I am thoughtless? Will you understand? Will you believe in me, stand by me willingly? Will you share some of your questions with me? If you will show me
Won't you be seated? May we go into the world as practitioners of revolutionary love, learning to see no strangers, remembering that each person we meet is a part of us we do not yet know. Now please join me in the words of chalice extinguishing. Carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again. Our worship is now over and our service begins.
Thank you.